Good day, guys. So we'll be continue with the phone we're actually modeling. So we're going to try to start again to model the phone from scratch so that we actually know the things you're meant to do. So basically, if you're in the class, you actually see the things that we have already done. So I'm just going to jump into Blender. This is what we'll have. I'll quickly bring in my reference image by going to File, Import, Image as Plane, and I will double click. If this thing is not on, you have to click over here where you have 4 buttons. So I will double click and get that and press S to scale this up. Once I press S, I will move my mouse. My mouse is here. S and move my mouse out as if I'm going out so that it can actually expand the mesh. So for me to be able to actually see this thing, that's the reference I just imported, I will go to the viewports and change that to the material viewport so I can be able to see this. So I'll quickly recap some of the things you've already done before. So if you don't have the cube, Shift A, Mesh, and Cube. So I'll quickly bring in I'll change my scale to by clicking on it, and I'm going to scale it down. And remember, I would like to use my move tool to bring this up. So I will use my eye to be checking if it's actually the same size. Now you can actually work without that, but I'll advise if you can, you should be able to learn how to work with models with references when you're actually creating any model. So I have something like this. So I'm just going to scale it down by clicking on this axis and dragging it down and dragging it out on this axis like that. So right now I just have that, and I will scale it down this way. So I have something like this. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to press Shift D, hold Shift and press D, and I will move out my mouse so that I can duplicate it, and I will scale this one down too, and scale it down like that. So I'm going to take this one and drag it up and push this one to this side. So I'm going to have that. So I need this to be a bit flat, so I'm going to get my scale and scale this on this x-axis, the red axis, and get my move, click and drag it into that place. So I have something like this. Alright, so the next thing I want to do, I will get my cylinder, that's for the camera. I'm going to bring this in. I'll press R, rotate Y, press R to rotate, Y to lock it on the Y axis, and 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the Y axis. Press S to scale it down. So I'm just going to, if you're not seeing this very well, you can just go back to the solid mode. This is solid mode, and try to align it properly. Scale it down. I think I need to also compress this a bit like this, and then scale this, drag this out here, take it up a bit. Now if you notice, I have let me go back here. I have about 3 of it. I think I will go with this one here. So I have about 3 of the cameras here, so I will not worry too much about that for now. So I want to get the bar buttons, that these buttons I actually have here. So I'm going to duplicate this, Shift D, move out, and I would like to scale this down. Okay. I'm going to take this and drop it this side. I'll have to make sure you have to move around. Hold your middle mouse button and check around and see if it's actually in the right place that it's meant to be. Okay, so I have something like this. So the next thing I want to be able to do is to go into my edit mode. Now let's go back to, we have been able to actually create this. So I will avoid creating multiple of this because I have to do something on it to make it a bit smoother. So save our project and go into the week 2. So a lot about the modeling, the modifiers. All right, so the modifiers enable us to modify things without actually creating that particular thing. For example, I can, like I told you in the class, I can use array to actually multiply it. Like if you look at what I actually have here, it has multiple, just one sphere or one cylinder. I use array modifier. This array modifier I use to multiply it to actually be about 6 of it. Okay, so without actually duplicating it. So the next thing we're going to talk about is extruding faces. This one, what we do when we're editing things. So now the idea of modeling is that you want to be able to have a shape and be able to extend it to become to extend it so that it actually creates another form. So you can have a very simple cube and you can turn that cube into a building by just extending different parts of it. So if you look at here, we've extended different parts of this particular one here. So I will show you how to do this. So the shortcut for extruding is E. E is the shortcut for extruding. So we're coming to the loop cut part. So I want to extrude right now. So the idea of extrusion, let me go back to the mode here. When I select this, now if I want to change the shape, I'll go into the edit mode. Okay, because I'm in object mode, that's where we add objects. So if I go to edit mode now, I can be able to, I have 3 modes of selection. I can select the vertex. I select the vertex, let me get my move to, I can move only that. Alright, you see what's happening here? That's how you create a different kind of shapes. You have the face, the edge selection mode. I can just select an edge, and you have the face selection mode. I can select a face. So what right now I want to be able to make it, as if it has a sort of depth inside here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press E. When I press E, I can move it out. Okay. So, but I will choose to leave it just close to it, and I will click to accept. I will left click to accept. And when I left click to accept, I will press S and scale it down like this. Alright, so after doing that, I will press E again and I will left click to accept it. And I will use this one to drag it in. Okay, so I have something like this. So the next thing I want to do, I'll select this one, enter into edit mode, select the face, E, accept, S, scaling, E again, accept it. When I mean accept, I mean click, and you drag this one inside. So I have this as my camera. So it's not looking so nice now, but we're going to actually work on it. So we'll have this here. So the next thing we're going to talk about right now is how we can be able to make this thing to be a bit much more complex. So now if you look at here, we'll have what we call adding loop cuts, and the shortcut is actually Control R. So Control R, remember that the extrusion is actually E that we use. E is for extruding things, okay? So S is for scaling. You should know that by now. So we'll have a Control R. So basically, if I want to be able to create something, like if you look at what we actually did here, we actually made it smoother by adding loop cuts. So for example now, if you look at this thing I have here, it's very sharp, like very straight. So if I enter into edit mode, the shortcut to enter edit mode is tab. Alright, so or you come in here and click on edit mode. So if I press Control R, it will bring in a loop cut. So a loop cut is more like a way of cutting a particular face, because if you actually look at now, you see that when I select this face, I'm selecting all these faces. I can drag only this one here now. only that. Now imagine if I want to just drag half of this, or I want to do something on half of that. What I'll have to do is that I will have to use the loop cut, Ctrl R, and I will use my scroll forward. Okay, I'm using the scroll forward, like my scroll wheel. I'm scrolling forward. If you keep scrolling forward, it will keep on multiplying the loop cut. If I go back, it will have like 2. If I keep going back, I have just 1. So I just want to have about 2 of it. When I have that, I will click to accept it. All right. When I click, it will accept the 2. If I move my mouse now, it will actually move, but I will click again to accept the position of it. Okay. We're going to do more of this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the scale tool. So if I select that, I'll drag it along these axes. It will separate them like this. Okay. Now you're going to see what I'm trying to do very soon. So if I now use it and drag it up like this, I'm now trying to create a rounded and a smoother mobile phone. If you actually look at what is happening here, so the more the loop cuts, the smoother the object is. If you have just few loop cuts, it's going to be a big boxy, like just straight. So I want to be able to put another one here. So I'm going to Ctrl R. Remember, you press Ctrl R. If you bring your mouse over here, it will give you a vertical one. If you bring your mouse towards this edge here, it will give you a horizontal one. So if you move your scroll wheel forward, it will give you 2. Now if I click again, if I move, I see what's happening here. It will start moving to any place I want, but I don't want it to do that. So I will right click to accept it to that place it is. Okay. So I don't want to move it. So the thing is that whenever you add a loop cut and you have the 2 you need, click and click again to accept it and accept the position that it's going to be. So I'm going to drag this up here with this, my scale tool. Remember, I'm using the scale tool to do this. So when I do that, I will use my scale still. In case you should make the mistake of unselecting your distance, okay, the best thing to do is just hold Alt and click on one of the distance here. That's the edges. Okay. Then hold down Shift and still hold down Alt, the Alt key, the alternate key. That's where you have ALT, and also click on this one. So you have both of them selected. So I'm going to just drag this out like that. Can you see what's happening here? All right. So I have a bit a better, smoother mobile phone. Okay. So I'm going to do the same technique on this particular one here. Ctrl R, near my mouse button, click to accept it, and I'm going to scale this out to go to towards edges there, and go back a bit, drag this up. Okay, so it's becoming a bit rounded. I'm going to put another one here. 2. I just need to. So you scroll forward and backwards with your mouse wheel to do that. So I'm going to click again, drag this up like that, and move this out. Okay, so I have a much more rounded object now. So the other things we're going to do, we're going to avoid perforating this because of our time. So we're going to just continue, because when we're going to put the entire phone, we might not actually display that for the meantime. So now I want to go into the modifiers. So the modifier is more like, let's see what's the next thing here. I've done the whole loop cuts. Okay, so we'll have this. So okay, we're going to build that, but before we build that, I want us to finish up with the stand for the phone. So I'm going to build the stand for the phone. So if you want to get a stand for the phone, you can just go back to this mode and go to File, Import, Image as Plain, and if you go to your reference, you should be able to see this stand for your phone. So we're going to actually do something very, very simple. Now the reason I'm doing this is so that you actually have the idea of modeling different things and seeing how it actually works. So I'm going to Shift A, mesh, and I'm going to get a cube, and that cube I'm going to scale it this way. So when I scale it, so I'm trying to get this front part of it, okay? That's what I'm trying to actually get right now. So when I scale it, I will scale it up a bit. Alright? So the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to rotate it now. So to rotate, I'm going to press N. Okay, if I press N, I will bring out this thing. So you have different ways you can rotate. If you look at that, if I click and drag this, I can rotate on this axis. So I'm going to check on this. Are you seeing this? Okay, so I'm going to check. I want this thing to lie flat towards this side. Okay, so I'm going to do minus 35. Let me see what it's going to look like. Okay, I think I like that. So and to make it very simple for you, I will just do a very simple thing. So I'm going to Shift D on this. Okay, let's go back to 0, and I'm going to scale this one even to be thinner. Okay, and I'm going to make it to be 35. So it's going to go the other way around for this one at the back here. So I'm going to just drag it to this place. Okay, so drag it forward here. So the next thing I want to do is to add this part of it. Okay, so to add that part, I will Shift A and bring in a cylinder. So the cylinder will be like that. So I'm going to reshape, turn the cylinder. If you don't know the shortcuts, that's arrow and X. Just come up here. If you check this, you see, I see it's going the way we want. So I'm just going to make it 90 degrees here. Enter. And when I do that, I'll press S to scale it down. So it's going to be a bit smaller. So I'm going to drag it with my move tool to when it comes in here. Let's go closer. But I'm going to turn this off a bit, back to solid mode, and we'll bring this inside here. So I'm going to go scale this up, bring this inside here. Okay, so I have something like this now. So let me go back to this. So for this part, the cup part, if you really want to do that, I think that might be a bit difficult, but let me just go ahead and do it. So the way I actually do that is that if you have to actually go into edit mode. Okay, now use your face select and select this particular part. Okay, now when you do that, press E to extrude. When you extrude, now you have to press R and rotate it on the Y axis. Press RY and scroll, like move your mouse. Okay, and then use this one and just drag it out, just something like this. Okay, so E again, drag it out. R, rotate on the Y axis, move it up like this. So I'm going to just drag it up like that. Then E again, I'm going to move it up and rotate. R on the Y, press Y and push it up like that. So I have something like this. So you have just a bit of that. We're going to actually work more on it. Now there is one more rule. Let's just go ahead and save this work. I'll call this our iPhone 13. So the next thing we want to do, let's do this particular thing within the other one. Enter into edit mode, select this face, okay, and press E, click to accept it, and then S, and scale it in like this. Okay, so that we'll have this. We're going to work on it so it will look like that very soon. So I'm going to select that E, accept S, and scale in just do it like that for the meantime. So I think I would like to also push it in a bit. E again, and push it in for just to make it more beautiful. E again, and move my mouse inside. So if it's accept it, if it's not good, you can just drag it out. Okay, so that's for our stand. So the next thing we want to do, we want to go back to our mobile phone and start with the modifiers. So press Ctrl S to save your work. So after that, we have done our local transformation. Okay, so that's when you want to transform your object locally. Now let me just briefly show you that if you are when we use a very simple way of doing this, but like right now, if I want to scale this, it's going to be very difficult for me. It's going to be scaling almost everything. So if I want to do this, I will have to check here. I'll change this to local. So if I make it local, now I can scale it easily on one axis. Okay, so that's just what the local does. So you want to leave the transformation on global, except you need to scale something or do something on it locally, like on that particular one, because right now I'm using the global axis. All right, so if you change this to local, you see it's no more following this, it's not following for the way that thing was rotated. So if you rotate like this, it will still be like that, so you can scale it anyhow you like. If not, it's not going to be able to scale properly. If I do that now, it's scaling almost everything around it. Okay, so after this, so let's follow this so that we can be able to, I don't want us to miss any particular thing. So we have been able to do this where we extruded different parts of it. Okay, so now this apply scale is one of the most important things that we're going to be doing. So because it's going to affect a lot of things that we have done. So look at this here. So if I come back here now, all the things I have scaled, if I select this, if you look at here, the scale is 0 point this, 1 point that, 2. It's actually meant to be 1, 1, 1, so that it's going to have a proportional scaling when we start adding modifiers, because that's the next thing we're going to do. So to be able to add our scaling, to make our scaling to be okay, we're going to use Control A, Control plus A. That's a shortcut for making applying our transform. So after scaling something, we press Control A and tell it apply scaling, so it will become 1, 1. Can you see that? So we'll select this, Control A, scale 1, 1, 1. Select that one, Control A again, scale 1, 1, 1. Let me go back to this so I can show what's happening here. Then I'll go to my button here. Okay, I think our button is a bit hidden. I'll go to Z mode so I can see the button. Select it, use this and drag it out. So the Z mode is for seeing through objects, to see things that are hidden, or you just want to see how many subdivisions it actually has. So we'll have this. I'm going to drop this here. Like I told you, I'm going to multiply this, but I'm going to add something to it to make it a bit smoother before I will do that. So after this particular one, let's go back to, we have applied our scale. Okay, let's apply the scale to also these objects here. Control A, scale, Control A, scale, Control A, scale. So we'll have that. I think we didn't apply that to this one. Control A, scale. Okay. So after that, the next thing is using the bevel modifier. So like I told you at the beginning, that we'll have modifiers that enable us to do things. So there is a modifier called the bevel modifier. It helps you to smoothen edges and make it to have an edge that can be able to reflect light, and it makes it more realistic. Okay, so if you look at this particular shape, you see that at the edge, let me go back to my solid mode, is a bit sharp. Okay, and the real object is never really sharp. There is always an edge where it can reflect light. So if I select this now and go to my bevel, remember, very important, always Control A and apply your scale. Now come over here and do your bevel. So if I do my bevel, it will give it so much bevel. I don't need that much, so I'm going to increase this. Okay, so just play around with this and you be able to have something that is good for your own. So I'm going to scale it down and bring this up a bit. So something like this. So now sometimes, okay, let's just go ahead and do right click on it and do smooth shading, so it actually becomes a bit smoother if you look at it there. So we'll have something like this now. Okay, so I'm going to, if you check out flat, this is the flat part of it, so we can just do smooth, right click and smoothen it, and let me push this up a bit like that. So I'm going to select this one too, and bevel. So if you look at, once I did my bevel, it brought out the beauty of this thing even more. So I'm just going to go down and come up a bit, increase this to right click and smoothen it. So we'll have this. Now for us to make it a bit smoother, we'll have to actually add more subdivisions, but I will leave this for the meantime like this. For this one, I think I also want to put a bevel on it just to make it much more interesting. So right click and smoothen it too, and also on this one, bevel. So let's go close to, you see it's too much, so let's smoothen it, and just mistakenly added a keyframe there. So I'll increase that, I'll decrease this, right click and smooth. So we'll have something like this. So with this now, we can easily duplicate our buttons. Okay, so but before we do that, I would like us to add our materials before we even go into doing that. I don't want us to have to add all the materials again. Materials are like what will make this thing look very realistic. So after this, let's check out these ones here. Let's add let me add a bevel on this one too, and increase that, increase this a bit, and smoothen it to select that bevel, increase this to, and smoothen it, and select this last one here, and bevel, increase that, increase this a bit, and smoothen it. Okay, so if you look at the, you just have to actually work with there is no specific value per se, but if you look at your work and see if it's good, becoming smoother, then you can actually leave it that way. So remember, don't move all these things. If you move them, they will actually go off on their own. All right, so we're going to actually make them to begin work as one, but for the meantime, let's just go through it, what we'll have here. So after using the bevel modifier, you actually see I have the bevel modifier smoothing out this. I have more subdivisions on this one, so that's the reason why it's a bit smoother. So smoothing the surface by right clicking and clicking on smooth. Okay, so we have a backdrop. This is very important. We want to be able to create something that will be behind our scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is to, that's the, because right now what we'll have here is our phone. Okay, we don't want to use that, so I'm going to add a plane. Okay, so my plane, I want my backdrop to be somewhere here, so I'm going to just scale this up like this and use my scale and scale this up. So what I really want to do is this. I want to go into edit mode, press Ctrl R, and I'm going to bring up my I'm going to move my mouse forward, my scroll wheel. Okay, so I'm going to give it about 4 of it, 4 loop cuts. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to click and accept it. Okay, so I'm going to select, I'm going to click to accept it. So I'm going to select this one, pull it up, this one, pull it up. I'm going to pull this one up like this, and I think I would like this one to come up a bit too, and that one. Now this is just to make it easier, faster way of, there are faster ways of doing this, but it might be a bit complicated, so I'm using the simplest means to enable you to understand. So I'll do that like that. So I'm going to drag this back a bit like this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my object mode, and use my scale to scale this out like this. Now it's not going to be okay, so I'm going to use a second modifier called the subdivision modifier. If you click on that, you go to subdivision modifier. So if I get that, I can be able to increase that, the levels in the viewport. So it's going to be smoother. So I'm going to right click on it and smooth. So I have something like this. So with this now, I can be able to actually have a backdrop, like a background where I'm going to place that will be casting. That will be like a background that actually covers the behind of my scene. If you look at the things that we already have, so we're going to come to that part. So I've just showed you how to model the background, or we call it the backdrop too. So I've created it here, and I'm just going to smoothen it. And like I say, we're going to leave this because when we're going to place our phone on the stand, we're not going to see this. So for now, we're going to leave this. We're meant to use the volume modifier to proliferate this, but for the sake of time, we're going to leave this for now. So if you have issues with this, you can tell me, because this is what we're trying to create. You're going to use the bevel modifier, just create objects and apply the bevel modifier, but because we're not going to be seeing it in our design, we're going to leave it. So we're talking about modeling details of our mobile phone right now. Okay, so we'll have the details for our mobile phone, trying to make it much more realistic. So for now, I'm going to leave it this way because it's going to actually work very well, because I already have my subdivisions and the flow of my phone. Okay, so all those things, if you want to be able to make it much more complicated and you want to do some more interesting things. So but currently I have a very simple phone, okay, so that it's easy for everybody to understand. So now I'm going to just go ahead to start the texturing part of it. So now basically texturing is a way of being able to make sure that all the things you have done looks realistic. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to activate the EV render engine bloom and refraction features. If you're using 2.8, even if you're using 2.79, I'll just show you some few things to turn on. You're going to be using the cycles render. So but EV is what we're going to be using for this project to actually get the quality that I've already shown you before. So to do that, you have to go to this render properties and turn those things on. So let's just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to my object mode. Now remember, we haven't finished everything here, but we're going to just leave it for the meantime. You're going to see the beauty of it once we start. So I'm going to go to my render properties, and I'm going to turn on my bloom and turn on my screen space fraction. I'm going to turn this one on. Now you're going to actually see what this will do very soon. It's going to make our lights here to glow, and it's going to make our metallic objects actually begin to become like metallic, like it's going to be looking very good. So I'm going to go to add materials. So let's add our materials. So materials are like the thing that actually decides the color or how a particular object looks inside the viewport. So if you look at here, I have this principal shader here. I have a metallic shader here. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you this. So I'm going to select the mobile phone itself, and I'm going to go to my material. Look at the material tab here. So I'm going to click on new material. I'm going to click inside here and call it my phone. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I'm here, and I'm going to go down, scroll down, and increase the metallic nature of it up to that. Okay, now it's not going to look so good. I'm going to reduce the roughness a bit, like that, to that extent. So I like to, let me see, metallic coming down a bit. So if you look at this, I have more like a metallic thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and also do something similar to this one here. I'm going to call this click inside. I'm just going to double click here, Ctrl A to select everything, and then backspace to clean it. And I'm going to write the camera stand. Let me just call it camera stand. And I'm going to paint this one black by dragging this down, clicking and dragging that white thing down. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the roughness. When you reduce roughness, it becomes a bit shiny. So we'll have something like this. So I know if you want to see more of this, as you're here, I can actually go in here and change this to actually see a better view. Okay, don't worry about this. We're going to actually work on the lights very soon. So fine tune this as much as possible. Let me increase the metallic nature a bit and have it be a bit metallic. Okay, so let's work with that. So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to call this the camera itself. Okay, let me Control Z and duplicate this. Now you know that we'll have, I just press Shift D and Y to lock it on the Y axis. So I have this one that is white, so I'm going to just scale it down for that and leave it there. So I'm going to touch this one that has the phone, click on the new, and I have my camera itself. Okay, so the camera, I can leave it like that because it's going to have a texture, so don't worry about that. So I'm going to select this one, and remember we're trying to create something like this. So I'm going to have the, I'll call it camera, I'll call it light. So this one is light. So this one is light. I'm going to add something to it. So this one remains the principal shader by default. Okay, if you don't have that, just click here and go for principal shader. And I'm going to select this one here, and I'm going to change this to an emission. Emission is something that can actually emit light, so I can increase it a bit. So are you seeing the bloom? Now if you look at here now, it's showing you some sort of glowing light. That's the reason why we turned on this our bloom at first. If you remove that, you see you won't see it again. If you increase that, are you seeing that? Okay, so I'm going to select this back again, and okay, let's leave this basically like this for the meantime. So this one should be a bit up here. So this one should be up here, and that one, because I'm trying to copy this one here and push this one to this place. So we have added our material right now. So the next thing we're going to do, we have added to add multiple materials. Now if you look at now, we have our phone. The entire thing is actually metallic. So here is the back of our phone, here is the front of our phone. So we want to be able to make our phone to look like, you know, it has a real front. So if you look at what we have here, we're able to select a particular part and apply a different material to it. Okay, add a different material to it so that it's going to be different from the other one. So the phone itself, we want the front of the phone. I'm going to go into edit mode. So let me select the phone. Select the phone, edit mode, and I'm going to select the face. Use my face, select this face. Okay, so I think I would like to select this one too. I think I'll prefer it to be this way. Let's work with it like this for the meantime. So I'm going to go to my materials here, and I'm going to click on the plus sign here. Okay, so there is nothing here. I'll click on new. I'll call this, I'll double click here and call this screen. So we're going to have a different material for the screen. Now remember, selecting this and you having a new material in edit mode. Okay, edit mode, selecting this and then having that new material selected, click on assign. Now you're going to eventually see the impact of this particular thing we just did very soon. Okay, so don't worry about that. We're going to actually see that very soon. So I would like to look at what I have here in my phone, and okay, let's we're going to see what it's going to be. So we'll have the back of the phone. It has the apple. Okay, so we're going to also make the back to actually have a different material. So I'm going to call this click here. Either you click here or there. Back. I'll call it phone back. And also select this back here. So I would like to select this things here. And call it the back. Okay. Now on a second thought, I just thought of something. Why not we select this, even this part here, hold this shift, select this, these ones here, and apply it to the screen too. So we want the screen to cover everything so that we only have this outer part to be the ones holding the metallic shape or the metallic um, material. So we already have different things. When we actually add textures, that's when you appreciate what we have just done right now. So back here, I'm just going to add a simple stand material here. So I'm going to call it phone stand. And this one, I will click here and select my phone stand again. So we'll have the phone stand, and also select that one and call it my phone stand. So you just select it. Okay, so they have the same material right now, so I'm just going to select one of it, and let me go down and increase the metallic and reduce the roughness to give it that metallic look. So I want to be able to use the middle mouse to pan around. I want to be able to make here to be glowing. So I'm going to add a multiple materials to it. Go up, select this one, select the plus, new. I will call it stand emission. So just to make it look beautiful. So I'll go into edit mode. Okay, edit mode. Select here, hold shift. So I'm using my middle mouse to turn around. And hold shift and select here. So shift is how we'll select multiple things. Okay, and then I will click on the emission here and assign it. So if you look at this, it has a different material now. But then I will change this now to an emission. And I would like it to be a blue emission. This is how we change colors. So you can change colors by clicking on different things. So I would like to use a blue. Okay, and increase the glow here. So be careful about the increasing. So let me just go for about 7. Let's bring this down. Okay, we'll have something like this now. So there is one more thing I want us to do to make our work a bit. We have added the emission material here. So to make our work very easy, I want to do what we call parenting. I think we'll still go to get to that part. So, but we might need to do that as soon as possible. Okay, let me just go on and see if we have it down here. So I've added the material here, multiple materials, the emission. So I have a texture. Okay, so we'll have a textures here. So textures are more like realistic materials that will add to our materials to make it even more realistic. So we have added our non-material that is more like programming things from the computer by tweaking all these other things here. So now we have added different materials to different parts of the phone. So now it's time for us to add different things. So we have like the mobile phone screen, the back, and the logos and the backgrounds and other things. So we're going to do that right now. So after adding the texture, we're going to do what we call UV unwrapping. UV unwrapping is a way of being able to map the drawing or the picture we have to the 3D dimension. Okay, the 3D space. Okay, that we actually have. So I'm just going to show that to you in a bit. So coming back here, I'm going to select this. So I'm going to select this and go back to my edit mode. So going back to edit mode, I'm going to do something. So remember, I have my phone. It already has its own metallic nature. So the screen. So I'm going to work on the screen right now. So to add a texture to it, I'm going to go down here. See here you have base color that was white. Okay. So I'm going to click on the base color and I will click on image texture. Very, very important. So I'm going to go to open and I'll go to where I have my textures. So if you don't have that, you go to you should be able to know. If you don't know, just go to where you have your textures. You can download these things from the internet. Some of them are created, some of them you have to download them. Okay, I have this asset packed already inside your system there. So I have my screen here. So I'm working on the screen. Select the screen and open it. So if you actually open it, if you look at now, it's not mapped properly. You can't even see very well. So what you have to do is that you have to go to this place called UV mapping. So when you do that, it will show you this thing here. Now your shape. Okay. Let me hold my shift and select this one too. So it's showing me these things here where it is. Okay. So what I will do, I will scroll and come over here. If you scroll up down, okay, with your mouse over here, it will be doing this. Okay, so what you want to do is that you want to scroll down and select this so you'll be seeing what's happening. So I'm going to press A. A is the way of selecting everything here. All right, A is selecting all. So if I scale it up, let's see what it's going to look like. Are you seeing what's happening here? Okay, so we don't like that. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to look at this, come very straight at it like this, and I'll press U. Use the shortcuts to unwrap something, and I will say project from view. Okay, so when I do project from view, it will project it the way it is here. To just project this entire mesh or faces that we'll see and just bring it here. So it means that if I press S to scale up, are you seeing what's happening? It's as if it's mapping the entire part of this phone to this place here. So I'll press R to rotate it a bit, G to grab it to bring it to the center. Okay, so I'm going to S and Y to scale it up. Just scroll, move your mouse up or down. Okay, are you seeing that? I'm just going to bring this down a bit like that. So if you have issues, you can just come in here. This is your vertex selection mode, so you can select a vertex and just G to grab it and place it the way you want it to be. G, grab it. So G, select this, G, grab it and move. Select that, G, grab it, bring it up. You can select multiple by holding shift and selecting that. Press G, grab it and push it to different parts of this place. So I have this here. You can click and drag over there. Okay, that's another way of selecting multiple things. So if I drop this here, I have this one, drag this one back, drag this one back, drag this one back. Okay, so I think that's basically what we need right now. So I'm going to come out here and you see I have my mobile phone here. So I'm going to go back to my layout right now. If you look at what's happening here, it's a bit like a mobile phone right now. So I'm going to go to the back. If you still have any problem, you can be able to resolve that later. So I'll quickly go up here, go to the phone back, the same thing, base color, click on this yellow thing here, image, and open. Go to where you have your main assets and your reference, your main assets, and then get the back. So I want it to be a black back. Or click on that, so you see it will not be okay. Go back to UV unwrapping again, turn it, and this time around select this, hold down shift, start selecting all this. Okay, select this one, make sure you're not selecting another one. If you mistakenly select anything you don't want, just press Ctrl Z. Okay, so you see it's like this. Even if you press A to select everything and scale, it will not look very well. Okay, so what you do, U again, project from view. Are you seeing that? So it's even better and easier when you work like this. So I'm just going to drop this like that. So you can just scale it up. Because this is a black surface, it doesn't really matter so much. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to our layout. So we'll have our mobile phone like that. Alright, so we'll have this here. So the other thing we're going to do is adding our camera. I think this is one of them that will make our work look very beautiful. Remember to always press Ctrl S to save your work. So I'm going to go back into edit mode again while selecting this. Once you are done with anything, always go out, objects, select a new thing, okay, and then you want to edit it, enter back into edit mode. Okay, so we have our camera. Okay, now remember the camera already has a material, so we want to just have the texture affect only this part. Okay, we want it to have the color it already has. Let me just make it a bit metallic like this. Okay, and reduce the roughness. I want the phone to be metallic. Okay, but I don't want this part to be having this kind of color, so we're going to put a texture to it. So I'm going to call this the I'm going to call this I just clicked on plus and new material. Okay, if you didn't get what I just did, let me do it again. So plus and then new material, then I'm going to call this camera texture. Okay, so I'm going to enter into edit mode. I'm going to select this one, use the face, select this. Now if you have problem, okay, I think the best thing for us is just do from here. So I'm going to go to select and I'm going to go to select more. I seen that select more. It's selecting more. Let's go on, go back again to select and select more. I see now it selected this one inside and all this, so it will select it proportionally. If not, if you're going to select this one by one by holding shift, it's going to take a lot of time. So I'm going to select this now and click on assign. So right now I've assigned this to a new material. I've assigned it a new material here. Okay, so don't worry about what's happening there. I'm going to just go directly to base color, click here, not the one inside. If you click here you can change the color. All right, but we want it to be here. Image texture, click on open image, the same your textures, you get this guy here, you drop it there. Now it's not going to be okay, so you remember what you're going to do. The same thing, go back to UV editing, go closer to it, and now you press U, project from view. So when you project from view, come in here, press A to select everything, and G, grab it to the center here. All right, so we'll have this here, scale it out like that, scale it out, scale it out, scale it out, scale it out. So you have a very simple mobile phone here. So we'll have a camera. I like to just see it the way it is. Okay, so I'm just going to now. There is another mode I want to show you. This is the material preview mode. This is the rendered mode, how it will look like when we are done rendering. Now we haven't added any light, but I would like to go into that mode so that we can appreciate what this is really going to look like when we're actually done with the entire work. Okay, so now I'm going to select this, and right now I can do Shift D and bring this one down here, and do Shift D and bring this one up here. So if it's not good enough, you can just select that and scale this down a bit. Oh, that's too much. And this one down a bit. Select that, push it back a bit. Alright, so I'm gonna just select this, Shift D and bring it down. So I'm going to scale it down like that, S to scale it down, I think that one should be black, but I'm just going to allow it to be like a camera for the meantime, just for the sake of beauty and style. So, but if we want to, but it's not actually very clear what it is from here. So this is what we actually have right now. So I'm going to just leave it like that. So we have our mobile phone here. So we're going to go to the button also and add its metallic material. So I'm going to click here, material, call this button. So I'm going to also make it metallic and reduce the roughness a bit like that. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate that, and the one I will duplicate, I'm going to make it a bit longer like that. So let's see, go back to this mode. Okay, be sure it's not duplicate. Control Shift D and drag this one down to, okay, so we'll have our entire work right here before us. Okay, so let's see what we'll have next. So we have done our UV unwrapping to unwrap different parts of our screen. So project from view, so we'll have this, and we have added our camera in different parts of it. Okay, so we'll have all this added, so different faces. I think we did 4 faces here. Okay, I think I like this one here. So the last thing we want to do here, or the second to last thing, is join objects. Okay, so join object is a way of being able to make objects to become like one. So, but right now, okay, let's do it on this one here. So I'm going to select this, this, and this. Okay, I'm holding Shift. You click on one, hold Shift, select this, this, and I'll press Ctrl J. Ctrl J will make them to become one. Now, if you look at them, they're no more separate objects, they're actually one object. Okay. So another thing you can be able to do is to do what we call parenting. If you look at here, we'll have what we call parenting objects. So parenting objects is a way of being able to make objects to actually work as one. Okay. Remember that we're using this example here, all right, for this, just to make it a bit unique from the first our reference that we actually used the first time. So I'm going to parent. So parenting is a way of being able to, let's, for example, I select this. If I press, if I select this, and let me select that. Oh, I think something is wrong here. My selection has just changed. Okay. So if I move this, I have this here. Okay, the center of origin of my object just changed. Come here, let me resolve that. That's not normal. So I think our class is becoming a bit long, so I'll just go ahead and finish up. So the last thing we want to do is to parent our object. So to parent, I'm going to select this and hold Shift, select that, select this, and that, and select this. Okay. Now I'm going to press Ctrl P, and I'll say keep transform. All right. Now that means that whenever I select this last one I selected now, and move, it will move with all of it. Okay. Right now, if I select this one and I move, the other guys are not moving with it. So if I parent this to them, it will actually make them to, it actually cause them to move along with the phone. So if I select this one and select this as a last, that's the phone itself as a last, and press Ctrl P and keep transform. If I select this now, it will actually begin to move. Are you seeing that? Let's do that again. So I'm going to select this one, the child first, hold Shift, select the parent. The parent should be the last. Okay, keep transform, and you have, select the parent now, and you can actually move only that, and other part of it will actually move with it. So this one, the same thing here with it. So I'm going to select this, the child, and then the parent as the last. So the last thing you select is the parent, what will become the parent. So I'm going to select that and keep transform. Now the difference between joining objects and parenting is that whenever you're done, the children can move even without the parent moving. But if it was joined, you can't actually move it again. So like this one we have here at the side, you can actually select them, but they cannot move as separate objects. That's the buttons here that we are joined together. You can't move them as separate objects because they're actually as one right now. They're working as one. So that's basically everything. So the last thing I want to do is just to select this and bring this over to this place. Press our N, and I'm going to rotate this on the Z axis. So I have something like this. But let me just type it 180 degrees. So I'm just going to drop this here. Okay, so I have something like this. So if I scale this down, I should scale everything, go to the buttons and everything down. So I have something like that. So I'm going to still make it to lie flat on it. So I can just simply select this and this, RZ and 180. Sorry, that should be 90. RZ 90, like that. I want you to face the other way around. RZ 180 degrees. So I have something like this now. So the last texture I want to add is the background texture. So I'm going to select the background. I don't know if I've added that. Let me see our slide. Let's see what's happening over there. So we'll have for the background, okay, adding texture for the background, so that we'll have this last scene here. So I'm going to add that. Call this, select that. I'm going to go to the materials, and I'm going to click here, call this the backdrop. I'll select this image texture, click open, and I'm going to select this back one here. So when I have that, I just want it to be a bit, colorful. So I'm going to reduce the roughness a bit to make it shiny and increase the metallic nature of it to make it a bit that's cool. So I have that. So depending on what you're actually trying to achieve. So but for the meantime, I'm just trying to work with different materials to actually make you see how they work. So I'll drag this up so that it comes to alignment with these guys here. Okay, so I have something. I don't want it to enter into the mesh. Okay, so I have this. Let's press N to remove that. Push it up a bit, like that. I have this. So the last thing I want to do is just to select this, and I would like to make it to lie flat. Press N again and rotate on this axis. So I would like to use my, remember the local axis I told you about? I can just drag it back and rotate still. Sorry, let's do that again. And drag it back. I think this one is too much. Take it up like that. Okay, so I think I would like to make this to stand up a bit. I think just something slanting like this should be okay. I think this should be okay. So I'm going to make this one to slant a bit, to stand a bit taller. So I'm just going to bring it up like that. Select this one and make them to come on. This might be a problem for us. let's do Ctrl Z. Let's select this and bring it up to come to close to this one. Select this one and make it to stand tall. Make it stand tall like that. Okay, so we'll have select this one now and drag it up like that. So we have our scene. I think this one has to come down a bit too, like that, and come down like that. Okay, so I think that's where we're gonna end our class for today. It has become too long, so I hope that we can be able to work with this. So if you have any issues, you can just ask me in class, and we can be able to go on with other things like animation and putting our lights. Okay, thank you for listening and for doing your practice. And at the end of it, I expect that we should be able to create the complete 3D mobile phone. Okay, and add textures to the 3D model so that it looks like something like that. Okay, something very nice. So thank you very much for listening.